Hey guys, this week's video is going to answer a question that David asked, and he says, how do you put the tape on your patterns without getting wrinkles in the pattern? Great question. For one, let's talk about why we're taping the patterns real briefly. But these patterns printed out on paper, right? You get a download PDF, print it out, but we're going to be putting dry paper onto wet leather to transfer that pattern, so that's why we put the tape on there. I like just using a clear packing tape. I put it on the front and the back, and that's going to help that pattern, for one, protect it from the water, help it hold up when you're going over it with a stylus so it doesn't rip and tear on you, and you can reuse that pattern a lot of times. But if you've tried doing this before, I'm sure you've run into a few things. You try to put tape down, oh, we get wrinkles and stuff, and then you're trying to smooth wrinkles out, or you try taking that off, now we're ripping paper, and it can be really frustrating trying to do that and line that up. So let's make this very simple here. We're going to grab a fresh pattern here. For one, the biggest thing that you fight with is the static, kind of that static cling of the tape, right? When you go to put that there and the paper starts coming up to it. So what I'm going to do is, for one, I'm going to kind of keep my finger down and hold that pattern down. And then if I have the pattern held back here and up here, I can let that tape go down, kind of aim where I want it, but I'm letting it go down in that center a little bit first, and then letting it roll all the way down, following it with my finger back here. Main thing is keeping control, keeping your hands down on that pattern so we don't let everything jump up at your tape. Run that down. Run it down, making sure I'm pushing down from that open center there. Okay. All the way. We're taped down on one side, make sure we get all of our bubbles out. Now we can flip that over, do the same thing on the back. Now, one thing you notice, I'm using a free roll of tape and my knife. I find that is much easier for me than trying to use a tape gun with the cutter, because then everything's wanting to stick to it. So I do that. The other thing I like doing is right at the end of that tape, just fold that over, so next time, real easy to grab right there. But again, kind of seems like maybe that's not a leather working skill, but really it is, because if we can do that quick, efficient, and easy, we're gonna have patterns that'll last and hold up. Saves frustration having to reprint if you get a bunch of wrinkles over everything. And you'll have a pattern that'll last and you can reuse over and over. Now, if you do happen to get big wrinkles, like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Well, that's not the end of the world either. This one that I really let get bad, I let it get a way huge wrinkle. I guess you don't get wrinkles quite that bad. So I'm going to cut the big one out of the way there when it was sticking up. But even if I have little wrinkles like this, I'm going to use my fingernail, kind of flatten that out the best we can. And then that's not the end of the world. If I missed a spot in the middle there where it kind of gapped out, just come over top of that. Now again, little wrinkles. Let's see if we can get a little one in here. Well, it's a pretty big one that I got, but even wrinkles like that, that's a really big one. I'm going to start up here, push that down to get that wrinkle into as tight a spot as we can. Now, if I had to use this pattern, I couldn't have an option to reprint. It's not a big deal, just when you're coming around with your stylus, that you have that wrinkle to contend with, no different than a seam and the tape. You're gonna hit that seam, you just pick your stylus up a little bit and then keep going. So not the end of the world. But if you follow those few fundamentals, holding both ends of that paper, starting here, stretching out, keeping that held down, use that static to your advantage, starting that tape and then let it roll both directions, you shouldn't have any problem. So hope this helps. Appreciate you guys being a part of our channel here. Thank you for watching the video, and more tips and tricks, be sure to check out the links below.